do not move and then make plans for these NickSclusive stuffs. Stuffs, plural, because you can do stuffs, plural. Hi, I am Alex with True 90's Nickelodeon, and I have been all kinds of mixed up with dates and times, and do not make the advertisements first thing in the morning after you've been up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I have, both with John Crane and with Allie, I have completely messed something up in the advertisement, so apologies to them. But either way, we've got Allie with us today, waiting for the connection. How's everybody doing? Radio silence. That would be my crickets. This time, we found out minutes before my interview with John Crane that this door to my bedroom does not well, it closes, it doesn't latch, so he can just burst the door open. So we had to put up a baby gate. So we shouldn't have that issue anymore. Now, I told the thing to let Allie in. Why for? You no work. Invited. So we're waiting. There we go. Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. All right. Hello, Allie. Hello, everybody in Instagram world. All right. So we have Allie with Creepstar Industries. I did pronounce that correct?
I mean, it's from the series Krebstar. Yeah.
Krebstar
Industries. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Been such a that's a detail thing that did not stick in my brain. Which please forgive me, because again, it's been chaotic, and getting all the dates and things together, it's been nuts. I threw poor Allie for a loop because I had made a comment on my last interview with John Crane. This is going to be my last interview in my old house. But I didn't really make that overly clear, so then Allie started to, wait, you're not going to do ours? No, we are. It'll be in the new house, so we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, still got
All
boxes to unpack and stuff over there, I assume?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
The worst moving.
Oh, yeah. Living in it. The garage, you can't even get into the garage right now. It's completely a mess. But one room at a time, so we're getting it. We've made a lot of progress the last week, so awesome. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. What you've got some really cool Pete and Pete stuff that's been going on, and I've loved every second of it. It looks so awesome. So for anybody who is not a follower, what are some of the things that Creepster has been making?
Yeah. So one of my favorite things from the series of Pete and Pete is this obscure brand that they created called Krebstar, and basically they're like the Amazon of, the Wellsvillian area that like creates literally everything. There's Krebstar Brussels sprouts, there's Krebstar space stations, there's like they make it all. And so it's such a neat little part of the show, and so I found myself looking for all these fun Easter eggs from it. And then I thought, okay, there's got to be like an existence in this world where Krebstar makes ads. And so I decided to, as I'm binging the series, write down every single product that I can find from it and then make an ad for it. And then like eventually the goal is to have like a catalog of every product ever created in this magic world of Pete and Pete.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything that is there that you can show, or is it just all stuff that we can follow you on Instagram and check?
You've got to follow it on. I'm moving. I'll go grab my iPad.
You're fine.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Krebstar_Industries, and that's pretty much the only place I have it right now. I didn't really feel like dealing with 3 accounts because I do that on some of my other stuff that I do, and I just found like a lot of the 90s Nick nostalgia folks are kind of just centered around Instagram. So, but yeah, so that's where you can find it. I've kind of branched out and I saw that there was like no merchandise for Pete and Pete out in the world.
Yeah.
And I decided, okay, well, I'm just going to make some stuff that I like. That's Pete and Pete oriented. And so I've made some shirts and some stickers and other stuff from the show. So folks who like Pete and Pete maybe could have something of their own, which, sorry, grabbing that iPad.
You're fine.
So yeah, you go to bigdoorprize.com. That's just my LLC. And you can go to our shop, and there's all kinds of Pete and Pete swag in there. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Now, how long have you been doing Krebstar and Big Door Prize?
Yeah, just about a year now. Probably a lot of folks who had a lifestyle change from the pandemic, and you're now working at home, which is not something you're used to, and you find yourself making lots more free time. Having an iPad and not using it, I was like, okay, let's explore this thing, and let's make some cool stuff. And so we had Adobe playing with the programs, like, hey, this is really fun. And sure enough, I'm like, okay, I can make a lot of stuff on this. So I'm just gonna do this for me. This is stuff that sparks joy for me, and hopefully other folks are on board to get along with it. So
that's something that I really, really love about this particular community on Instagram and the Nickelodeon retro nostalgic group, is if it's something we like and we put a lot of passion into it just because we enjoy it, there are others who are like, that's really cool, can I get some of that? And that's a really cool feeling to find that there's other people who are very like-minded. So I love the stuff that you've been making. I think it's
thank you.
so awesome.
Let me pull up some of the stuff we had. So
you're fine. Take your time.
Oh my gosh, my stinking iPad. So it started out with, I was trying to do these like in chronological order based on like Krebstar appearances. And so like it started with King of the Road, and that's one that like folks thought it's not necessarily like technically Krebstar, but it's like sort of a fan created one, which was the Creb Brolet, which is like the version of the Chevrolet out there.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I started with that one, and now I try to do it chronologically, but I don't know if I'm like other creators where it's like if you kind of just like get in a little rut and you just want to make something that you want to make, so I might skip an episode from time to time, and like, oh, I've watched Field of Pete like 16 times. I think I need to move on to the next episode and find some new inspiration.
Or do you ever have one of those moments where you get an idea for something and you're so excited about that one that you want to skip the others and just go to that one idea?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's kind of happened with like the shop too. It was like I was working on the products, and then I was like, oh man, I really want to make this shirt design from something I saw in the series, And so I went and like made the prosthetics jerseys and from Field of Pete, and then taking a break there. Okay, so let's see if you guys can well, maybe I can flip my camera around on this thing. Yep.
There we go.
Yeah. So one of my first ads was the infamous Krebstar Eviscerator, which Little Pete plays in Hard Days Pete.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, these are one of those things where you're just watching the episode and you're getting all the screenshots and close-ups. One thing I noticed that like when he turns on his amplifier, that it's called a wick whack, which is clear. I took the name of I crossed out like the Fender on the Fender guitar and put in a little Krebstar. Didn't have its own thing, so I'm like, there's a little creative freedom, so I call it the E3000 on the head. And then I always try to like put in a little bit of just niche lines from the series to tie it all together. So,
sure.
There's like that infamous line where the mighty E chord can turn an Audi to an innie, and then they get that shot of Pete's belly button, like shooting out the lint, and he's called Thunderball. Thunderball Wrigley. So, just if I had to make an ad for this specific product, this is the way I would have done it. So,
love it.
Yeah. having a lot of fun with it.
Now, that was just an ad. It wasn't like anything that you sell for anybody, is it?
You can go in the shop and get prints of the ads if you really,
Prints. Okay.
need one
Good.
on your wall. I'm very I'm very flattered if anybody wants to put that on their wall. So this would be awesome. But mostly
I do know.
Yeah.
I do know that there have been some people, whenever I expressed an interest of, I might start making some stuff, would anybody be interested? And I had a handful of people say, we need more Pete and Pete stuff. So if you're watching and you want some more Pete and Pete stuff, this would be the place to go, because they've got some great stuff.
Thank you. Yeah. And so, if you just follow my page, there's always links to my shop and other stuff too. So.
All right, so you got prints, you got shirts, you have pins, right?
No pins yet. I'm trying to figure that one out, but I got stickers. In some cases, I have like water bottles, like gym bags. There's all kinds of weird stuff. I go through like a little vendor that makes like all kinds of products. And
yes.
So if I can put a logo on it and they make it, then it's up there. So I got mugs. You can get your prosthetic sweatpants. So.
And you had just released the jerseys, or at least released the advertisement for the jerseys. They're still going to have to be, made, right? You're just pre-ordering at this point?
Yeah, it's a totally crowdfunded thing, kind of like a Kickstarter, It's like, jerseys are one of those things you have to buy a minimum for like a sports team. And you can't just get them like made on demand. And so if I can get like enough people to just want to buy their own jersey, then we can do a team order and I'll ship them out to you directly. So we're doing a crowdfunded effort from now until November 1st. But, it's one of those funny things about Pete and Pete is there's so many little things that like maybe this is such a small audience of people who really appreciate the fact that their Little League team was called the Prosthetics. And their mascot was just literally prosthetic limbs sewn to a man's costume. So
there are a lot of big Pete and Pete fans, and I think it's just because the show has become kind of ignored from Nickelodeon and ignored from Viacom. But there's a strong fan base, and I think that's with a lot of Nickelodeon shows, even the ones that weren't as popular as Pete and Pete. That the fan base for it is so strong, and Pete and Pete is definitely one of them. So speaking of Pete and Pete, why choose Pete and Pete of all the different Nickelodeon properties? What is it about that one that made you want to make stuff for this one?
Growing up, like my favorite, I liked Pete and Pete a lot growing up. I watched it when I was young. And then I think like many probably folks who were familiar with the show, like it just disappeared, right? Like it wasn't really on syndication. You didn't see it around very much. And then recently I just started rewatching the series, and as I'm watching it, I'm getting like all these unlocked memories, right? Like, oh my gosh, yes. There's the president pops where he sticks Dwight Eisenhower in his nose, and you're just like, that was an unlocked image in my mind. And then like obviously in the same episode where he like shoots the garage door opener off Mom's plate and it bounces. Anyways, so I was like, oh my gosh, I totally remember watching this, but like somehow escaped my memory. And then as I'm watching it as an adult, it's such a well-written series, and like how they pull off every single episode is just incredible. And so I just really fell in love with the series as an adult. I think more than as a kid. And so I just became kind of obsessed, and it brought me a lot of joy during some tough times, like, pandemic and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, it just kept adding to the layers of appreciation, and it still does. I still find little factoids of stuff, like I call it the Lebowski effect, because like if you watch The Big Lebowski the first time, it's not your favorite movie, right? You're like, I guess I just didn't really get it. And as you watch it every single time, you grow more and more in love with it, because it's so well written and so well done that you miss so much as you watch it those first times. And so that's how I feel about Pete and Pete. Like, if you really pay attention to it, it's really a smart series.
And I completely resonate with everything you just said. Pete and Pete, I really enjoyed it when I was a kid, but for some reason it came on at a time that I had something else that was going on, and I didn't really get to catch it on regular basis.
Yeah.
And then it disappeared, and new Nickelodeon properties came in, and I was excited about the new ones, completely ignoring the fact they're getting rid of the old ones. And when my youngest was born last year, you've got those late nights of getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and feeding and so on. So I decided I'm gonna put in a show that I want to rewatch, and I started watching Pete and Pete again, and I haven't watched it since I was a kid. And just like you, I completely forgot all about this episode, but I remember it now that it's going, and I remember the next beats. And there was one commercial, and I remember it distinctly, but it was when Pete and Pete were getting the house to themselves. And I remembered the commercial where they said that Dad was going to finally say those 3 words. And then they would pick 3 words from the show, but they weren't the ones. And then finally said, the house is yours. Or not 3 words, but the house is yours, the 4 words. And that was, I remembered that one. And then I remembered Endless Mike breaking the door down. Welcome to my nightmare. All of that. It's like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot all of this. And I remembered what I was doing in those moments. So, no, I completely resonate with everything you just said. That's very much in my book, too.
Yeah. Hopefully people who, like, haven't revisited the series in a long time, just take the time to watch it. Like, it's free to watch on YouTube right now. I mean, take advantage of that while you can. Who knows how long that gravy train's going to allow us to watch it. But I think you'll realize as an adult, like it's still written for you too. I think it's like it miraculously follows you through every stage of life. I feel like I'm sure as I get older, I'll totally relate more and more to Dawn, you know, and Stu and all these people who have these, you know, who have children or have been, you know, or getting older in age. And it's crazy how they've managed to do that. So
I think of all of the kids' shows that were on Nickelodeon, this is probably the one that most accurately depicts the function of a child's mind.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and they weren't afraid to, like, tackle those things that children have to deal with, you know, despite, you know, like, I don't know, they tackled literally death, you know, in a few episodes, like, that many kids shows would never even want to try to tackle at that time, you know, at that time or any time.
And I mean, just on the topic of Pete and Pete, my wife loved Snow Days, and I never watched it. Just because by the time that came out, I was a teenager, I was no longer interested. And then this past Christmas, she wanted to watch Snow Days, so we put it in, and I was thinking, this really has. This sounds like Pete and Pete. The way the narration goes, the over eccentric characters, and then I started looking up, and this was originally intended to be a Pete and Pete movie, and I didn't know that. It's like, okay, no wonder this works. But man, it would have been so awesome if they were actually able to do Pete and Pete on the show in the movie.
Yeah, what could have been, right? If we could have just gotten, because it seems like the perfect concept for a Pete and Pete episode, and then, you know, turn that into a 2-hour episode, and it'd be great.
And instead of it being the guy who was shoveling all the snow, if it was the garbage man.
Yeah, or you could have had, like, bus driver Stu and you know, pick up a side gig while the roads are closed. Like, yeah, anybody could have pulled that off.
Yeah, it would have been so great. So I did have some non-related merchandise questions and non-related Pete and Pete question. Just a random, what is your favorite Nicktoon?
It's tough, but it's definitely Ren and Stimpy. I'm working on a full sleeve Ren and Stimpy tattoo. I truly love that series a lot. And then Rocco is an extremely close second. Rocco's Modern Life, which I also have a tattoo of. So
now, going with Ren and Stimpy, do you prefer the John Kay or the Bob Camp?
It's really tough, right? Like, you know, you don't want to credit John Kay because of everything that's going on there. You know, I like to look at it like on a couple of things, like, and a lot of times, like, a lot of people who make great things are just at the same time just bad people, not great people. you know?
Yeah,
You
agreed.
know, there might always be something involved in that. And you have to realize too that like it wasn't just John Kay
Yeah,
that put in all the effort to make that series what it was.
exactly.
You know, I tend to lean more towards 1 to 2 for seasons 1 and 2 for my favorites. I think so.
Yeah,
But there's plenty of stuff from the games era that they were doing great. And honestly, people like to put the stigma of like, oh, it lost its edge, or it wasn't like as, you know, as gross or whatever. Like some of the grossest stuff, it's not it's not specifically a John Kay kind of thing.
yeah.
I feel like they did a pretty good job. I've had the privilege of chatting with like
I don't,
Will McRobb and Mitchell Kriegman on a couple of those things, and you know they kind of just, you know, needed to be reeled in a bit. And I think that's evident in like episodes like Man's Best Friend. You kind of see
yeah,
like the wheels coming off a little bit.
yeah.
But then you see the genius too in a lot of the first episodes. And so I think we need to be grateful that what became of everything out of that, but there's ways of honoring it without having to involve, you know, John himself.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I don't really have a whole lot more.
No worries.
So if anybody has any questions, put them down and below. In fact, I need to check to make sure before I get distracted. Were there any? Because you can't talk about the live action. You can't talk about the Nicktoons without talking about the game shows.
Oh
Did
yeah.
you have a favorite Nick game show?
I mean it's probably it's Legends, you know. I really love Guts, and I really love Mike O'Malley. Like anything that he does is gold, right? Like he's a great sitcom actor. You know, he's an amazing host. Like, oh my gosh, his hosting abilities are incredible. But you know, Guts is one of those things that you had to be like either super into athletics to maybe enjoy, or you know, to relate with. Whereas Legends,
Yeah.
it just felt like anybody could have made a chance at the Temple Run, right? And so there's just some allure to, and I for some reason I just love like alliterative things. So like purple parrots and that kind of stuff. You get blue barracudas. I don't know. I think there's way too much nostalgia associated with Legends itself, and it's just a
Are
fun
you
show in general, right?
are you gonna check out the reboot when it comes out?
I am. I actually tried to make it on the show. Like they had
Really?
they had the casting call. I applied, but I didn't get a response, unfortunately. It would have been really cool. But yeah, I plan to watch it. We'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be.
Oh, sorry. Honestly, I just love to see any adults trying to do Double Dare or Guts or any of them, right? Like, let's get all of us 30-year-old or 35-year, you know, mid-30s folks who are maybe not as much shape as they were as kids and see if we can actually climb that aggro crag.
Wild and crazy seniors.
Yeah.
Everyone just riding their wheelchairs up a mountain. Let's see. I don't really think we have a whole lot left. So let's just go with, as a recap for one more time, for anybody who wants to find some of your merchandise, where do they go?
Yeah. Best place to go is bigdoorprize.com. That's where the shop is, so you can get any Pete and Peak swag there. That includes stickers, shirts, prints, and other knickknacks. And then you can also follow me on @Krebstar_Industries. Krebstar being the fake business creators of Pete and Pete World of Wellsville that create every little product that they use. And that's where I create custom ads from the series and make them look like 90's magazine ads. And it's just a lot of fun. And some other little goodies too. I do like a Pete and Pete meme page on Twitter. You can kind of like keep up with there. And then if you're just like a fan of the 90's, I have 2 podcasts. I have Notable Nostalgia, which is just a 90's podcast. We talk about literally anything from the 90's. But it's from a queer and BIPOC perspective. So I have a co-host who's an Indigenous person, and me and my other co-hosts are in the queer community. And then we just released, that's coming out tomorrow. It's a Dungeons and Dragons podcast, but it's a 90s.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a 90s themed Dungeons and Dragons podcast. So we are playing a campaign that's based in a 90s universe. And that means we'll be interacting with different, canonical things of the 90s, whether it's like Disney or Nickelodeon or, anything related to the 90s, our characters are having to navigate, and it's a lot of fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Didn't you share something that Michael had also responded? Or
Yeah, this is literally the dumbest thing that I do. So there's a series on Netflix. Maybe you've seen it. It's a sketch comedy series called I Think You Should Leave. It's from Tim Robinson from Detroiters. It's a very funny series. And what I do is I combine scenes from it and scenes from Pete and Pete and make memes out of them. And it's very dumb. It's very silly. But I wished Michael C. Morona happy birthday on his birthday. And he tweeted with his own meme that combined the two series. Like, so if you really are, if for some reason you're like me and you're a big fan of I Think You Should Leave and Pete, it's called I Think You Should Pete, and it's on Twitter. So, but yeah, those are also the highlights of my Krebstar page. You can just follow them there too if you don't want to deal with the Twitterverse, which I wouldn't blame you for not wanting to.
All right. Well, I think that's all I've got. If you guys have any other questions that you'd like to ask or you want to hit up for any merchandise, you know where to go. Go check out Krebstar. Go check out Big Door Prize. Follow Allie and keep the support for all the nostalgia content going. This is a great community that we started to build, and I want to see it continue to grow. So thank you so much for joining in for this NickSclusive. And I hope to see more of you.
Yeah, it was good to virtually meet you. I know
Same.
We've been interacting. Yeah, thank you for having me. Love to come back anytime you want to chat some more Pete and Pete or any Nick stuff really. So
yeah, anything. Cool. We're down. All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you, everybody, and you all have a lovely evening.
See ya.